It's like, are you kidding me? And then he wrote it down on the piece of paper that was good for 30 days.
Mm-hmm. That's poo-poo.
It's hot as fucking here.
You're fucking whining. You're whining.
Who's coming to speak today?
New finance thing. The new finance company.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Do my hair for once. How you doing? Good? Yeah? Do you know the whole thing? I don't even know what this whole thing is. Do you know what this whole thing is?
Something to do is it's like a same as cash option is what they're doing. They're testing it out.
I'm just here because I'm told to be here. So.
Well, we're glad you're coming to be here.
I know, right?
Probably not as good as Sean.
For type of door, can I just put crap?
They're having a great time.
Let's come look it up. She's that's what we love about her. She's beautiful. All right, so we have. Morning, man. How are you?
He's talking to me.
What's the latest?
Still, yeah, all's good. All's good. You little lying son of a bitch. I was like, keep up. So did you not look at the stream?
You see, I let you have your parking spot, so I didn't want you to cry.
No,
I love you.
weren't there. It didn't matter, You know you left the lights on.
Oh, shit, I didn't set my alarm.
No, you're there.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I don't think I set my alarm.
Mark's in a joking mood today. He's in a good mood.
It's Monday. Huh?
That's
Yeah.
it.
It's a new month. Life's good. Still alive.
That's what you gotta. That's what the important things are.
Only green line is fucking.
Just right on there. That just right manager approval.
Okay.
You are good.
You is
As
good.
long, I don't care. As long as you know that I'm not weak and this is not my bullshit, that's all I care about. Everybody else can fuck off. Larry wants to come talk to me. He can get his ass down here and come talk to me about it.
I blocked this now. I went the same thing I
Well, I did too. Well, they have a bunch of little things. We'll just skip those. Like, no, I.
How's the pregnancy going? Yeah? What's that? Hey, Megan. Come on. What's that? Great. Way to be right 30 minutes right in the middle of where we should be. Yeah, I told her 9:30 though. So that way it was boom, boom. Get them in, get them out. If you guys want coffee or speeches or anything, that's it. What's that? You can take like 2 minutes. Hurry. Hurry. Hello. Very good. Did anyone let the people up front know that?
Probably need to let them know so they're not walking around searching for us.
Do you want to sit here? I kind of took this seat.
Excuse me.
Can you see my statement? Yeah. Memo.
Yeah, that's cool. It's very detailed. That's my.
You don't have eyes on time.
Look at you, Lefty, with one finger. I can't type that fast.
All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Are you kidding me? Good morning, everybody. finance thing that we're trying out as an organization. So when they come in, I'm going to give them the floor and just kind of stop what I'm doing to make sure they, basically they've got their time. And then we've got some, you know, housekeeping things to go over, and also want to go over a few things. We lately in the Wednesday, Thursday trainings have been working on return on investment, which I did record one, but I threw some expletives out of there because I was angry on that day. So I'm probably not going to release that video because there's some 4-letter words that aren't nice on that. So therefore, I basically going to leave that off. But there's a return on investment form I created just to kind of help out. Talks about maintenance savings. On one side of it, so if you run into customers that have wood windows, I didn't hand this out on purpose. So if you want one, you can come up and get it. But it's there's a maintenance savings on here that just talks about what their maintenance today is, what basically it is in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. So if you're dealing with people that paint or stain windows, then we basically have that. Next is energy savings. Basically talks about what their estimated utilities are today. Then we talked about when you're doing your inspection. So what's a house like this cost? $800, $1,200 if you're on an average home. If you're on a bigger house, obviously you want to guess high. So they come back and give you the real number. So we want to find out what that is. On the back, I printed the SDG&E thing. It talks about the 28% gas hike on there, just to give you guys a reference point on what the average utility bill is going to raise. So if they have a $400 utility bill, that's like $518 that would raise up to based on nothing alone. And you can actually tell if you basically just take that $118 and you times that by 120 months, 180 months, however long they're going to be there, you'll see what it's going to cost them just to stay in their house and do nothing at all, right? So again, it's showing them a way when you have those customers that are telling you that they've been living with them for this long, they're going to continue to live for it. It's showing them how they're already paying for their windows, right? And in some cases, when you get up to 180 months, and those people that tell you they're not going to move out of their house, you know, $500 utility bill, that's like 93 grand over 180 months. So if you look at basically some of that costing that you can play around with in there, can be pretty extravagant in getting them wrapped around. So what you'll see, it says average today, average monthly in 15 years. So obviously if you're telling them it's going to be 518 within the next 4, what do you expect for to happen in the next 15 years? Do you think it's going to stay the same? Do you think it's going to go up? You're trying to get them to drive that number up so you can find your average. And then when you find your average, that's when you take that amount by the 180 months, or say they're going to live in there for 60 months or 5 years, you can do that same thing. The cool thing about a return on investment, even if it doesn't pay for itself completely, you're showing out actually how much they would pay based on utility savings, resale value, and those other things, which shortens the gap. So again, you're showing them if it's a 60-month term and maybe you don't pay for the whole thing, but it's all but basically like $6 grand. Now you can show them on a $40,000 project, $30,000 project, how they're paying all but $6 grand. So they're only paying for what they use. That's where you can again sell the payment, which we're going to talk about some awesome things we have going on this month. On the back, basically is resale value. I did put the cost versus value on here, and then I blew up basically the San Diego resale value of 83 to 87%. So even if you do that at a conservative number at 70%, you're still showing them how this project will pay for itself. And the cool thing when you get down to the end of it, after you add the resale value, maintenance savings, energy savings, it gives you a total return on investment. What happens is when you're in your negotiation side of it, it shows what your 1 year price is, and after you've discounted with your coupon, if you take that number and you subtract it by what your total return on investment is, not your today price, at the basically resale value number, you can show how that project pays for itself. And then you can actually divide it out by the same number of months and show them what that would be monthly back in their pocket. So again, it lets them see how, this is something that Windows, if they do it right, actually costs them no money. It's actually one of the smartest investments they can make. The only caveat would be if they have solar. But remember, even if you have solar, the windows still make you uncomfortable, and you're not going to fix that comfort. So again, that's the purpose of doing a form like this, is it works. And at first I fought putting it on a form because I feel like I don't want it to be scripted. I wanted you guys to do it off of it. But again, if I don't give you a form, you've got no balance and you don't remember to do it. So I created the form, which there's plenty printed off here. And there's some printed at the showroom also, so you can start working with this. Now, again, this is a tool, and like all of the tools, just like commitments and other things, they're worthless if you don't put them into play. But again, when you're dealing with your proximities, you're dealing with your events, you're dealing with your people that think you're a year or two out, this is a perfect thing to take them from a year or two out to today, because a lot of people they live in that situational awareness world where you have something that they pay $400 a month, they're just used to paying. So they just think about that as a fixed cost, not something that they can do something about. Remember, so again, if they're already paying for their windows now, basically if it's maintenance savings, if they painted or stained their windows, they had to re-stucco around their windows, they basically had to re-caulk their windows, they had to change out some fogged up glass seals. That's where we want to find out that information, because all that stuff added up is going to be there. Even if they tell you they're not maintaining anything on their windows on the maintenance side of it, you can say to them, if you didn't do anything at all, you would at least have to maintain these windows to keep them for that amount of time, right? So again, we know if we put 0, that's an extremely conservative number, wouldn't you agree? So we have to make sure, again, that's why we trained on that for 2 days, which is why I flipped out when I saw only 4 people were on that basically call. Because again, there's nobody in here that's closing at a rate that makes it acceptable not to show up. So when we look at that thing, that's why I got so flipping mad, because again, it was that thing. I tell you, if you don't care, I don't care. And that's where that came in. Because again, I try to push everyone to be as good as you're going to be. Remember, make money or mother F me to the bank. That's the word. So it's to the point now where you're going to mother F me to the bank, because I'm going to force you to be successful. And that's where we're at today, is we're going to talk about it. So real quick on numbers, I'm not even putting the numbers up there. I'm ashamed. I'm literally ashamed of what our numbers were last month. Okay. To the point where I won't even put them up, because it would be a negative for me to put them up. And I want to forget what happened, and I want to focus on today and keep moving forward. For a small company, we did great. But guess what? We're not a small company. And, doing $1 million a month is not good. I think that's crap. So we're way better than what those numbers showed. But again, this is not the time where we get lax. It's a time where you put in the extra work and make sure you're not making mistakes, right? We got to make sure the people, and I think it's really funny that the people that came in for training on there have gone basically like what a combined 6 for 8. The people that were that were on the trainings on Wednesdays and Thursday, when it's combined 6 for 8 on their last appointments, there's no secret to the madness. It's called iron sharpens iron. And I don't give a hell how good you think you are. If you're not having somebody sharpen you or make yourself better, you get, basically objects that stay at rest, or objects at rest stay at rest, which means if your brain's not being challenged, you're not putting stuff in between your ears, you're not getting better. And again, under my watch, that is not acceptable, and it will not be acceptable. So again, we are going to be the best we're going to be, and I'm not going to buy excuses. If you're buying excuses for what homeowners are telling you, you're buying excuses for what you're selling yourself on why you're not successful, that's your bag of problems, not mine. So again, it's our job to make sure we're doing the best we can do, right? Because when you show up to a house and you've never remodeled your windows before, there's a good chance that no one's heard of DreamStyle. Good chance that nobody's heard of RBA. Good chance that no one's heard of any remodeling company until you're in the industry for it. When you start getting the industry, you start making sense, then you start seeing advertising, right? And I can tell you in San Diego, DreamStar Remodeling advertises as much, if not more, than anyone else in our area. So therefore, there's no excuse there. Number 2, we're the #1 remodeler in the United States, basically on full service remodeling in 2017 and 2018. By the way, they have a great 2019. That makes us back-to-back champions 2 years in a row. What else do you want, right? Products made in America. We won the House Design Award. There's so many things that we have won and taken care of as an organization that we don't give ourselves enough credit for. We're a gigantic organization by ourselves, okay? So that's not an excuse. So that's got to set aside. So again, but if we don't get the commitment that they're 100% confident, then at the end of it, that's going to beat us in the face, right? So we have to make sure we're doing those little things that add to big things. Hats off to Dave. I crucified Dave right in the middle of a meeting at the beginning of a meeting because he didn't know one of his commitments. And I freaked out on him, right? And then basically he realized what changes he needed made. Now he's, what are you, like 3 for your last 4? So again, basically you identify where your mistakes are happening, because sometimes we think we're better than what we are at that point. We think we're the same person as we were last year or this year, when in fact is sometimes we could be slipping. You know, because inflection, that might be something that could be wrong in your presentation. You might have the wrong inflection. You might be wearing, you might forget to do an inside and outside inspection. You might forget to put a level on a track. You might forget to look at the why. Why are you there? Why are they buying windows in the first place? Why are you doing what you do? Right? What is their shrine? Why are they there? What is their shrine? What kind of shrine do they have in the house? Why in the hell are they buying windows? What's their motive? And if we don't think of all these things and we're just thinking of the one thing, and we're just become product engineers, which means we're selling the product and only the product, windows don't get up and install themselves. Windows do not get up and install themselves. It's a 3x5, a 3x4, a 2x8, whatever it might be, basically box, rectangle, that has to get inside of a house somehow. And if it's not installed correctly, the warranty's void immediately. Or it doesn't look correctly, or it won't operate correctly, or basically the water management system's not correct. Right? So we have to do a better job at figuring out what their shrine is and why they're buying. Because sometimes when we get in a rut, we stop forgetting that questions are more powerful than statements. We feel like we can tell better stories, and there's this thing I need to make sure I get in front of the customer that's going to make this more important. If I miss this piece, I'm not going to get it. So I got to make sure I have verbal vomit all over this customer, because I don't want to forget something that's going to change the direction. When maybe it could have been 2, 3, 4, 5 more questions you asked after you broke the barrier down. In the beginning, you're interrogating, right? But if I keep asking questions throughout the process, eventually I'm going to break something loose that's going to allow them to share good information with me that might change the outcome at the end. So this game is psychology. It's psychology against yourself. It's psychology against the customer. It's psychology against the industry. Psychology against what's going on in the house, right? Because remember, if it doesn't do what it needs to do, it doesn't matter who's selling it, how cheap they're selling it for, it's irrelevant. So again, finding ways to find a solution, that's what you're paid to do, right? Because again, if we go in and we just talk all about the product and they're really sold on the product, but they're not sold on DreamStyle, the process, the basically project managers, all the different things that we offer as an organization that you can't find other places, then we're not doing a good enough job selling the package, right? There's a whole package here, not just one thing. We're not just selling windows. We're selling solutions to people's problems using basically the products and services that we carry. And if you're not selling the solution and you're too busy about selling the product, you're basing it on price. And price is going to be the issue, why or why not you sell it at the end of the day. And when you're doing a good job, you realize somebody, well, I can get that cheaper somewhere else. Yeah, I'm sure you could. Not a big deal, but it's not going to do what you need it to do. If you don't have fight in the game and realize that your confidence is at a level where you can't be shaken, then you need further training. And just when you feel like you got it and you're starting to click, that's when you need to keep getting more training. It's when you need to beg for ride-alongs. You need to ask for things to go on. Never go on basically, 10, 15 appointments, 2, 3 appointments, 4 or 5 appointments where you don't sell something, and don't put your hand up and not ask for something. You need to at least call and have a conversation with myself or Mark or somebody that you respect, a buoyancy partner that's going to help you get to that level you need to get. That's going to help you reset. Are you doing this? Yes. Are you doing this? Yes. Well, tell me how you're doing it. I'm doing it like this. Here's what I'm doing. Well, that's not right. What do you mean it's not right? Because you're not doing this. Are you using the form in your price impressioning? Right? Are you using that form in your price impressioning, or you're verbal vomiting the words out and then they can't remember it when it gets down to the end, so you're too much money? What other information are you doing on the side of it that you're pulling up? Bad reviews from other organizations, basically Better Business Bureau reviews, basically warranties highlighted. What are you doing that's putting you in a situation to succeed over and above what you're given? Think about that. That's how you get good at this industry. It's not me doing everything for you. It's about going outside the box and thinking about how to become a professional, right? You want to make $200,000-300 grand a year like you would expect to do here, like I expect you to do. Then what are you doing to master your own trade? What are you putting into it? Not what am I doing for you, and not how everyone else is failing you. What are you doing for yourself to make it work, to make it happen? That's a big deal to me. Because when I watch it, I see it. And I pulled a couple things just right off our website today that basically, sure, corporate's not as good as sharing everything they need to share of some of the accolades we've won, but we've got some pretty damn impressive ones. So if you really look at some of these things on here, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, right? I always laugh because I started going back and thinking about some of the things that were shared with me over the last week because I was calling and asking people a lot of questions. I started a company called Bathworks, B-A-H-W-D or B-A-T-H-W-O-R-X, and had a green frog for everyday living. Nobody knew us from a hole in the wall, right? We did as a small organization $3 million out of nothing but a mall display in Kirkwood Mall in Bismarck, North Dakota, right? Then we got to the point where we transferred out, and the same thing happened when we took it to Fargo. Then we took it to South Dakota. Then we took it to Nebraska. And we blew a freaking business up off somebody that had no freaking clue what our name was, okay? Same thing for a company called Jubilee. We took it public. We took a company public that nobody had ever heard of. It was $1.5 million organization that had their own CNC machine. They're about to go bankrupt. Guess what? We sold the hell of that thing. In literally 2 years, we grew it up to $12 million and basically added 3 locations to the fact where we were trending to do $20 to $30 million and we got bought by Home Depot. So you can't tell me, being a $125 million company, we got to oversell our stuff because we don't. It comes with the conviction that you give the customer because at the end of the day, they buy you. They're buying you in the house. How good are you? That's the difference between it. How good are you in the house and what are you bringing to the table? And if you run into something that is a challenge that you don't feel like you can overcome, when's the last time you've told me about it? When's the last time you shared with me what challenges we're having and where you can overcome it so I can help you at least come up with a way, or I can take it up to corporate and find a way to help you, okay? So there's some things this month I feel like they're gonna shake the tree loose, and I think we're there, you know, because we're gonna offer some cool financing programs this month. Next month, we're doing our 30-year anniversary sale.
Yay.
So we've got some things that are basically coming down the string. They're going to make this month and next month blow up like crazy. Now, hold on a second, though. Okay, that's a positive. But now I'm going to be watching like a hawk. I'm watching like a hawk because, again, if I'm spending the leads on you, the money on the leads on you, what am I getting back in return? Right? What if you're failing on some of the leads you are? What are you bringing back into the business for what you put out that you didn't bring the return back on? Even if the lead sucks, they still cost money, right? Ryan, you did marketing and advertising forever, right?
Yes, sir.
Cost of leads aren't cheap, are they?
No, they are not.
They're very expensive. So again, we have to make sure we do the absolute best, even if it's a piece of shit in your mind. What are you doing to make it good? Most leads suck. They all do. It's what you put into the presentation, how you deflect it, right? Are you identifying your color code, your reds, your blues, your yellows, your whites? Are you figuring out those things that are important so you know how to operate within the situation you're in? Or do you forget it? Because we don't go over it that often, right? So again, finding out and identifying your customers is gigantic. You know, hats off, Dan Lewis. Good job last month. Appreciate you, man. Good job. You know, Mark Lance did a great job too. Good job. Cynthia, 3rd month in a row. Good job. Good job. You know, Mike Pierce, thanks for putting in the effort. Appreciate it. And then hats off to Dave Meggert for turning his month around in a week at the end of it. So good job, buddy. Way to go. So again, some good things to talk about on there. I could have put it up there, but as I looked at it, I just kept getting more and more mad. So I had to back off it. I knew for my mental sanity that I wasn't going to put those numbers up through there because then it would have made everybody's life a living hell today. So I laughed at this when I saw it online. It cracked me up. You know, it's so true though. you know, there's so many times that we miss something, right? Whether it's a pre-close, or we get put in a situation that we feel like they're really going to call us back. Buddy, I'm not a big one on the be-back bus, but man, they're calling me back. I guarantee it. I got this one. And then suddenly that time comes and they don't call back. So when it does, probably looks like this poor guy here, right? Got more hair than me, so I'm a little upset. But it says again, it kind of makes fun of our industry, because it doesn't matter what company, what industry you work for, you know, buyers are liars, right? The best time to make an educated and logical decision is when the facts are in front of you. Let me repeat that. The best time to make an educated and logical decision is when the facts are in front of you. If you just did a 2.5 to 3 hour presentation for somebody and they were not taking detailed notes the entire time you're there, tomorrow morning when they wake up, they forget half of what you told them. The next day, they forget a quarter. By the time it comes down to make a decision and they see 1 or 2 other companies, you are literally just a name and a number next to it. So if you did your job and got your commitments and got to the end of it, if you don't fight with everything you have to fight and leave nothing left on the table, then you literally, more than likely, are walking away from business that you're never going to see again. And it's hard to say that, because sometimes we have had some things where they have come back to us, but they're very few and far between. I guarantee it's less than 20% of the time that we expect to be back that it actually comes back. That means 80% of the time on that we fail. So again, do you want to rest your basically faith in a failure and then basically roll the dice and see what happens, or at least get to know why you're there and know you can move on? So again, that's what they're kindly trying to tell you is no, or basically you haven't given them enough information to convince them yet. So if we've done our job, I mean, sometimes you run into that one customer who tells you they're not making a decision no matter what, and they're taking basically a book of notes on you, that might be a different story. They might be analytical, and there might be nothing you can do to talk them out of it, but we still try. But again, sometimes those customers will call you back based on the information. But no matter what you do too, let me tell you this. Even though I tell you to not focus on the be-back bus at all, sometimes it's what you do that makes a difference in the world after you leave. You know, I highly believed, even though I would push as hard as you could possibly push without pissing somebody off at the end of it, I would still send a thank you card. How you doing, man? I still send a thank you card on every single appointment I didn't sell, just to make sure that I was in their mailbox. Because if it gave me a 2 or 3% increase in chance on them calling me back, then I wanted that chance to be in my favor, not against it. And actually, I brought back quite a few of those, because I said, you know what? You're the only person out of the 4 estimates I got that actually sent me a thank you card. So I think that tells me a lot about your guys' service and your company. So again, think about those things that you can do to make a difference. And sending a thank you card that we will provide for you costs nothing. We'll give you the stamp. You just set it up on the front desk. We'll stamp it for you, send it out. Takes no effort to write out a couple little personal notes. You know, talk a little couple personal things. Their kid has a softball game this weekend or something going on to that to help you basically set yourself up for success, even after you got blatantly told no. You don't know, because maybe you're going to run into their parents next week. Maybe you're going to run into their best friends that can afford you, right? Maybe you're going to run into basically one of their work associates. You never know, so think of everything as like a referral engine. What can you do immediately to make a major difference with what you're given? I know if I get at least put in a position where I can't get a business, I'm at least asking for referrals. I'm at least basically trying to get something out of that. Even if it's a storm door that I get on the front of the house, or it's something that I can try to do to mark my territory. I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can do. Okay? Visiting your installs. Knocking on the neighbors around your installs. Right? Figuring out ways, even dropping your card on and say, call me for, basic direct savings, whatever it might be. Figure out a way to get your throughput going a little bit more. All right. So, I'm going to break now, because you're from Square, right, my man?
Yeah.
All right. So Square's here. We're going to make sure that we give him his attention for the next little bit. Then we'll continue and we'll go through today's message on what I'm going to go through. But again, some exciting things in the finance world that we're going to. So listen up, because there's a little extra incentive that Kelly and Corporate's throwing on top of what he's going to share with us today. Try to ignite a spark in that also. So With that said, what's your name, my man?
Thorsten.
What's it?
Thorsten?
Thurston?
Yeah.
All right. Thurston from basically Square.
Cool. Hey, actually, if you don't mind, can we wait 5 minutes? There's actually like 2 of my colleagues that just went to the show.
Are they?
Instead. Yeah.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
they're like
Not a big deal.
they're on their way.
Well, then we'll move on.
Cool. Sorry.
So in 2 minutes, we'll have Mark come back up afterwards. What I want to do though is, again, thank you cards make no effort. They take no effort to do a thank you card. Okay, takes no effort to even follow up on a third day after an appointment. You know, so there's a law to this thing. Let me share it with you real quick while I'm in here. If let's say you get a basically maybe at the door and they won't straight tell you no, and you fight them to get you to tell you no, but they won't tell you no. You're like, come on, just be honest with me, right? What you're telling me is you're just trying to nice me out of the house, and I'm okay with it. I'd rather take a no than basically and walk away this thing and be friends. It's okay. But they still won't tell you no. Well, then there's something strategic, right? That day, not the next morning, that day you send a thank you card out. And then you call them literally in 3 days from then. What happens is they're going to get their thank you card, especially in San Diego County. They're going to get their thank you card in the mail. And as they get their thank you card in the mail, and you follow up with a phone call just to make sure they received your thank you card and to see if they have any other further questions or anything like that that you can answer, is basically 2 touches, right? And then after that happens, if they still can't talk them into making a decision on the phone right through there, then you set a third follow-up, right? Just like advertising, there's a rule of 3, right? There's a rule of 3, a law of 3. If I get in front of somebody 3 times, that's the magic number to get them to pick up the phone. So again, if I'm touching that customer 3 times after the appointment, that's going to put myself in a position to succeed more than failure if they would not just tell me yes or no. Okay? And that's frustrating as hell, but sometimes it does happen because you do run into weird situations at some points. You know, not everybody's exactly the same. For the most point though, we want to get that yes or no, but if not, you always need to make sure you do that. You set that up, and I set a date and time for follow-up on every single time. Every single time when I leave the house, if they don't tell me no, there's a date and time for follow-up. Just like an appointment. I'm making them put it in their appointment book, and I'm saving it in my phone so I don't forget to call. Sometimes it's a test, right? Sometimes people were burnt really bad by another home improvement company or another contractor or somebody in some other industry that came into it, so it might put you in a position where you can't get that business no matter what. So they're testing you to see what's going to be like afterwards. So make sure, again, we're doing those little things that add up to big things, plus you make you more referable. Think about that. What if you sent one thank you card and they can't afford you, but their parents are looking at windows too, but their parents can't afford you? And now because you sent that thank you card, you know what? They call you and say, you know, I couldn't do business with you. I'd love to do business with you, but my parents, I think, are in a better position than I am, and I want you to go talk to them. I think they're going to love what you got to say. Think about that, right? Referral engine. Now you've done something with a bad situation, right? So think about those ways that you can make a big difference. Up here too, at 3 o'clock today, they're changing LEAP on the back side of it to match some of our financing programs and discounting. Right now, I printed about 50 of these things out, which is just that price presentation sheet for you to basically take off, and it does have this month's promo on there that we're going to go over, and then also just a quick way to put out basically the price, and you can put their name on the bottom of it, the name and the day of the estimate. So again, it has you has a formalized sheet for you that just looks a little more professional than doing on scratch paper or a legal pad or something. So again, it gets you put in that position. I think I printed this out a long time ago for some people that weren't comfortable with the app. If you find right now on the app, if you look on Leap, it's still showing the buy one, get one, 25% off or whatever. So again, that's, for some reason, I tried to push it earlier unless I'm doing something wrong. It was not showing me the 20% off. So again, you want to make sure basically whatever you're putting in front of them is something that's presentable.
So are you saying we need to refresh this afternoon?
After 3 o'clock today, which is 2 o'clock our time, then yes. So maybe by the time I wouldn't probably do it in your appointment. I would do it between your 2 o'clock and your 6 o'clock appointment. All right, cool. All right. So guys, this is Square. So again, we're going to give them the floor for, the next hour and we'll go from there. So you guys, if you want to connect, there's an Apple box.
Okay.
So that you guys can connect and go through what you need to.
Do we need a password for the Wi-Fi or?
Let me grab that for you guys real quick. I don't know that. Actually, on the bottom of that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we should be able to use the AirPlay. Corporate line.
And the Apple box is just called Dustin's Apple box.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Let me know when you're ready to go. Have you done introductions for us? Or?
Now, yeah, I'll let you guys. Sure. Sash, you guys take it. There's my full square stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
About all I do, anyways.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can fill you guys in on the rest.
Yeah. So
Sure.
we got, Kelly told me a little about the program and stuff, and what we're doing to promote it on our end of it. So, should be all good.
Perfect. How much time do we have? About an hour? Okay.
Yep.
You guys go to the show.
You can cut a little short. I would.
I think we'll do the training in like 20
Oh yeah, that's why she
minutes.
sent us the
Yeah. That'd be good.
I've been out. I'm not.
I just wait for you to get ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you want to? Can you connect?
2433.
Can I get a glass of water or a bottle of water?
There's there's a refrigerator
Oh, yeah.
right over there.
Okay.
Like in the bottom refrigerator, there's water, there's coffee and juice and all that stuff over there too.
Try again. Oh, connected you.
Let's see if it works from here.
Yeah, no problem.
Are you connected to Wi-Fi? Okay.
Yeah, oh, you're getting to it.
I never. No, it's just an iPad. I think. I don't know. That's weird. Not good. It's supposed to be.
Unless you guys want to airdrop something over to mine, and then you can use mine too. It's up to you.
Yeah. Yes.
It's weird. It's not connecting you guys thing. Actually, our email is down. So if you have a keynote, or is it like
It's just a URL.
See URL.
Yeah. It's on Google Docs. It's just a link to. It should be accessible by you.
You can go on to, if you want to use this to access it.
Yeah. Pull this in. Oh, great. No.
Do you need the short URL? Just send the Google Doc.
How are we gonna send it?
Oh, perfect. Enable. Or if you go in here, we'll just give you a short one. If you go to
Oh, you want to send it around so we can follow along.
and then shareable link, maybe. Well, I can try typing that in.
Can you click share? I think Google comes up with short URLs itself. Click share the link.
No, it's always try to connect it. Try to connect it.
I mean, I'm just gonna type that.
We can also sign up for a Bitly account really quick. Simple for it.
Do you have one on your iPad that you can just?
Oh my god.
Dustin? Nice to meet you. So you got free account. Yep.
It is.
Bit.ly
3,8.
8W5T. We might have to get permissions. We might have to change the permission for. Oh, yeah, for anyone.
No, I can see it. That's great. Okay,
And then
perfect.
you need the
I
permission of one
have
too.
it. I have it open.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. No.
That one can't connect anymore.
All right, we're in business.
Okay.
We are just not on the screen yet.
All right, so let's do this real quick.
Yeah.
Now we should have the link up.
Oh, great.
All right, now we're good.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're ready.
All right, hey guys, how's it going? My name is Nick, coming here from Square Capital, and I'm joined by Janae. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Janae. I am one of the PMMs for Square Capital's installments project that we'll be training you on today. And then,
Hi, I'm Thorsten. I lead consumer lending for Square.
Yep, and I'm just a lowly project manager at Square, so I have been helping build out the product. We launched Square Installments back in October of last year, so it's relatively a recent program. I think hopefully, as you can see, it's a little different than a lot of the consumer financing programs you guys have used before in the past. And one of the things we're kind of highlighting is how easy it is to actually go through an application and how private it is for your customer to be able to do that. And I think you'll see there's a lot of benefits with this program over other programs. I also think what we're not doing is we're not replacing some of the long-term consumer finance programs that you guys are already using. We've been down to Albuquerque, we've been down to Tucson for DreamStyle. They have different use cases over there where it's a 10-year, 7-year loan with high APRs. even deferred interest after 0% APR. We are not going to be, this is not to replace that. This is more for people who could pay in cash. Let's say something is like $15,000. They probably could pay that in cash, but $15,000 is a lot of money. So if you can split that up into 12 or 6 or 3 monthly payments, it just makes it easier for that purchase to happen. And that means it's more likely for that purchase to occur. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to do a very simple training. We're going to show you guys how this product works. And then there's a couple of compliance things as consumer finance, as we know. So there's a lot of consumer regulation for good reason. And then I think we're just going to open it up to questions and have a discussion. And I know there's some people joining us from Orange County, so hello over there as well. Can we hear them? Is that they do? Okay.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, they read it. Okay. But feel free to ask questions when we get into the Q&A round. Cool.
Yeah.
So Janae's going to take it from here.
Yeah. Hi. So we'll get into this later, but just as a cover slide, this is what your guys' landing page will look like where people can start their application. But before we get into that too much, Square Installments is a consumer financing product that people can use for purchases anywhere from $250 to $15,000. And we have terms over 3, 6, or 12 months. And then I also understand that you guys will do 24-month promos certain times of the year, so like 4th of July, Black Friday, that sort of thing. So you'll have some extended terms, term lengths around those different time periods of the year. But in general, it's going to be 3, 6, or 12 months. And our APR, you guys have our 0% program. So for you, this will be 0% APR for your homeowners or customers. And then this is eligible for anyone, or this is a product that anyone can use as long as they're in an eligible state. So right now, unless in the last week it's changed.
No, it's still weird.
So right now we are in 27, 28 of the United States. And then coming in another week or so, we should be in 48. So this is kind of just to get you guys ready for hopefully a week from now.
But it is available in California, so you guys can start using this immediately for California customers.
Perfect. And then this product, once someone is qualified and decides that they want to use it, it'll be good for 30 days. So that should give your finance team on the back end and measure days and permitting plenty of time to be able to double check all of that before the program actually starts for the homeowner. And we'll kind of demonstrate these different.
For the 12 months or whatever, when you start for 30 days, right?
Yes. So once it starts processing is when it starts. So the application is not the start date. The start date is when they actually process it on the financing end. Yeah.
You'll see in a bit, they'll get a digital card and they have 30 days to use that card. But as soon as they use that card, they're due, their next payment is in 30 days. Their first payment is in 30 days.
So there are a couple of ways that you can bring this up to a customer and direct them to that first landing page. One of them are these postcards. This is just a front and back vision or visualization of what that looks like. And on there is the URL that's customized for DreamStyle. Kelly has these postcards and she's going to handle distribution to the different offices. So these should be coming in the mail. And then I think the best way to kind of demonstrate the product is just to kind of walk through what it is. So we're going to do a quick product walkthrough. It's interactive and will give us a chance to kind of see exactly what it is your customers are going to be experiencing. So this is the landing page for DreamStyle. And it high level lays out what the 3 steps are for the customers that they're going to have to complete. At the very bottom, there are some frequently asked questions that they can look into. If they still have a few questions, they can always contact Square directly, and there is a prompt to do that as well in one of the frequently asked questions linked. But if they choose to start an application, they're just going to click right here. And also, again, this is a URL, so it's going to be a web-based application. So this is something that they can do on like an iPad here or their own personal device, or if they feel better about doing it on their home computer, if that's better for them. Those are all good options. But they'll click Start Application and they'll be asked to enter a purchase price. And it's important to note that this is not actually a line of credit. So whatever number they put in here is going to be what they're approved or denied for. We're not going to come back with like a counter offer. So really important that this number is as inclusive as possible. So any fees, any taxes. So they'll enter that number here and push continue. And then we're going to ask for a little bit of information about them before giving them the line of credit. So, or actually the installment plan. So we're going to ask for their name, some contact info like address, email, phone, and then they'll be asked to enter their physical address, and they start to type it out. This is one that will automatically start to populate what those options might be. So they'll select that from the drop-down list. And then just a last few questions, just to make sure they are who they say they are. We're going to ask for the last 4 of their social and their birthday. And to get an idea of what their expendable income might be, we ask for a range of their salary, and that's going to come from like a drop-down range list, and then what their monthly housing cost is, just so we can get an idea of what it is they'll be able to handle. And then they're going to check this box here that allows us to kind of verify the information they entered. And then they'll be presented with 3 plans, 3, 6, or 12-month options that will lay out for them exactly what their monthly payment will be, how much of that monthly payment is principal, how much is interest if there is any. You guys have the 0% option, so I'm going to toggle that on for you guys here. And so you'll see that the prices automatically adjust, and it'll be 0% all the way down. And then they'll be able to see these 3 options. They'll be able to choose which one of these is going to work best for them, and that's something that they're able to do. And then once they select one, they're going to be asked to link a debit card. And this is because this is how we collect payment from them when they enter the repayment phase. And we've gotten questions around whether or not this can be a credit card. The answer is no, it has to be a debit card. We don't want them taking out credit on credit. So a little bit more responsible. So they'll enter their debit card information. And then at this point, there's like a quick double check. Does everything look good? Here's your monthly payment. Here, if you did have interest, here's what it would be. And this is your total amount that you're financing. And so once they get to this point, they're going to be given, they're going to be given a truth in lending disclosure. And they'll also get a copy of this in their email as well. But this will lay out for them exactly what the terms are again, how many payments they'll have to make, what date the payment will be due, if they use it that day. Otherwise, if there is like a delay just for you guys where there's measure days and permitting, that date will be a little bit later, and they'll be notified of that as well when the card is charged. So here they're going to authorize, and this is where we do a hard credit pull. So something that's kind of cool is they're going to be able to see all 3 plans without a hard check on their credit. So if they see those 3 plans and they're like, you know, I don't know if any of these options are going to work for me, maybe instead of entering $10,000 as the amount, we enter 8, they get a different plan, and then they can figure out how else they want to handle that remaining balance. But this will be the hard pull. And this is the very end of the process for them. They are going to be presented on their screen with this digital card. And those 16 digits there are just kind of like when you shop online or anything, you'll enter those 16 digits to check out. And that's essentially what this is as well. For you guys, if you are on site, you can take a picture of this card and send that in the LEAP package over to finance. If it is in the showroom, you're going to be able to kind of save that information then, and finance will be able to keep that information and enter the 16 digits later. We just want to make sure that we note the 16 digits, the expiration date, and the CVV. Let me see. We've got some questions on this page before around over the phone. I guess sometimes customers call in. You can totally take this number over the phone as well. There's no legal implications around that. Totally okay for them to give that to you numerically, just reading it out. That's also fine. So yeah, that's the end of the process for customers. And then,
So they have 30 days to use that card.
yes.
That's something to highlight.
So is that like earmarked for us? Like they can't spend it anywhere else then?
It's only eligible for Dreamstyle, yeah.
As far as, because the projects a lot of times, at least the back end funding is outside of 30 days. You know, normally it's, we get half when they come to do it, the measurement half when we the installation is done, it could be a month and a half, 2 months. I
Okay.
mean, is this money only available for 30 days?
That's right.
So
you're
it would
saying
have to be
that-
charged within 30 days. Yeah.
Look, they don't charge the entire amount within that 30 days. They
They're
can still
talking
go and use it.
availability to dream style.
Yeah.
Some of our basic projects could take 4 to 6 weeks to get installed.
Right.
That's what they're.
Yeah, and we're not collecting the second half until final.
So what I was told that is that you guys have like a measure day
Yeah.
where, so I think the first thing you do is you go to a homeowner's home
Right.
and you figure out exactly what work needs to be done. And then there's a measure day. And on that measure day is where you would get them to do this application. Actually, you do the application on the estimate day, but you'd get that card. And that card is available to be processed within 30 days.
Does it need to be processed for the full amount, or can they just take 50% and then take another 50%?
Those would be two separate loans. It's a one-time only use card.
So and then you
Oh,
pay in
yeah.
full before you install.
So we just run this through our credit card.
That's right. I don't.
There's no problems for reps here. This is not a problem for us.
I think this is the back-end accounting folks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys would have.
Now that you guys do the program, you can
Yeah.
offer the program to it, which is why it's approved in California.
Yeah.
And
Whenever-
basically, that's all you worry about.
Okay.
That's
So,
right.
a couple of quick questions. So you're saying that they can only pay with the debit card? That's the only option?
So when they repay through us, it's going to be through debit card.
Okay.
Yes.
There's no automatic billing for a checking account, it's just a debit card.
That's the thing. What if they
Debit
want to use like a separate savings account or
ACH.
that doesn't have they have to transfer the money out or they can't?
Yeah, they'd have to, well, whatever debit card is connected to the bank account, that's what we'll draw from.
You can't just use a bank account number.
We don't put the bank account number. You mean like a routing number and like all that stuff?
Yeah.
That's actually like more difficult we found from a consumer perspective than putting a debit card, which is more accessible. Yeah.
And this is something that the customer fills out on their phone, or are we gonna have it on our tablet to fill out? Or
It's both. You guys should have it bookmarked on the tablet.
Okay.
But if it is something where they feel more comfortable entering their personal stuff on their own device, then that's yeah.
On your iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The URL.
Let them fill it out.
You can fill it out,
Yeah.
so you can screenshot the card when it's done. You
Yeah.
get access.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but even if they do it on their own phone, if they get to that card screen, you can just take a picture of that card. There's nothing special about the card. It's just the numbers.
Yeah.
So it's a soft pull for.
Yes, so it's a soft
So
pull
they-
to
they
see
get
the
their
plans.
approved on the soft pull, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so the soft-
It's
yeah.
not hard pull to the 17 grand.
That's right.
Exactly. So they'll be able to see all of their options.
One
Yeah.
quick question. So
Yeah.
it's a zero interest option, but there are monthly payment requirements.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta, yeah, exactly. So every month, so you guys are gonna be on a 0% program. What that means is for automatic payments, there's two payment methods. They can be auto pay, where we draw it back every single month, or there's manual payments. For manual payments, it's a 4%. It's like a very nominal APR because we're trying to encourage people to actually use automatic payments. Obviously, when it's automatic payments, they're more likely to pay us back because we literally pull it out. When it's 0%, there's obviously no interest, no accrued interest. So what they are due for is the principal over the 12 months. When there's a 4%, they're due for the principal plus whatever accrued interest happens during that period.
But
Yeah.
we're only doing the 0%.
So you guys are doing the 0%, but it is worth noting that there is a 4% APR if they choose manual payments on that
So they
program.
have to be on auto pay.
If they want 0%.
For 0%. Yeah.
Like true 0%, that's correct.
Which is the only thing we're using this for.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, so right now it'll say on your program 0 to 24%. And in about a week, we're making it so that, so we have in this program, you can actually fall back into an interest bearing plan if you're not eligible for 0%. We are actually turning that off for you. So if they do not get approved for 0%, they actually just get declined.
So Dustin, if they get approved for this, but they're waiting for approval from the HOA that takes 6 weeks or whatever, then
We generally don't run any credit or pull any credit to basically proof of HOA. Or not a credit, but we don't like draw any money out until we see this. So that's something.
But they're saying we have to
It has to be done within
30 days.
Understand that. Well, we don't have, they have 30 days to activate the loan. So I guess, I'm not sure.
Well, they're gonna have a hard pull right there with us at our meeting, the first visit. And then there's a 30-day window, and if the HOA takes beyond that, then all of a sudden they're messed up.
So, I mean, what they can do
It's
is
a
that
one-time use, right?
it is a one-time use if they use the card. So what you could do is if you see that it's going beyond 30 days, they could reapply at like 28 days or 27 days. And it's like, that they'll get an extra 30 days. And the likelihood of the amount of the likelihood of their approval changing within 30 days is not high.
So you're saying that they would need to do you guys would do another hard pull on their credit?
Yeah.
No, because the hard pull actually, sorry, the hard pull only is, so they consent to the hard pull when they go to the step where we show them the card, but we're not actually processing the hard pull until the funds are gone.
Yeah, but Thorsten, they're saying they're not going to swipe the card. They're saying they're going to.
But there's no hard pull if you don't swipe the card.
Oh, that's not what Janae said.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah. No, but that's how it actually. Sorry, that was.
I'll
That's,
find out.
That's
I'll
true.
find out further details.
It's usually at the
on
same
how
time,
they-
but yeah.
I'll find out further
Yeah.
details. Right now,
yeah.
the program that we're using right through here, because we have lots of people that don't need HOA, right? So we have a lot of people that don't need HOA approval. So they're able to use this program right now that we're talking about for the next 30 days. Corporate is offering an extra 2% commission on it. So if that doesn't shut your mouth, maybe don't
Janae,
stop
is it on card swipe or is it on accept? It's on card swipe.
It's on card swipe.
100%.
It's on card swipe. I just am thinking about it. I'm still on the
Hey,
retail version.
I'm sorry, sorry, couldn't catch
How
that.
far down do you get buy in terms of your credit?
Like 550?
So, I mean, we typically don't want to give FICO scores because we're using a lot of different inputs to figure out if someone's eligible. But I think numbers we can think about is it's subprime, so around 580 or so. But
So it is
again, it can be. FICO is one input that we use, but we have a number of different vendors. We look at debt to income for sure. Exactly, yeah.
We also.
That's why they put you saw it go through there. They put the last one was social, they put the amount of income they have per year. And then what are the other things? But there was three major.
Yeah, no, we definitely.
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference is also, so we get our FICO Advantage score from Experian, but we're not using the score itself, the decision. We're using the score plus I think we get an additional couple of hundred attributes, and then we have our own machine learning model built on top of that. And so that's why you might have a customer with a higher FICO score that gets declined because there's other things in the credit that we think are more risky that FICO might not have picked up, and vice versa. So that's why I think we like to stay away from kind of hard FICO cuts because it only
Can
works
we
for
run
some.
Pierce real quick and see if he qualifies?
It's not like
that as a benchmark.
That's your, yeah, exactly. Why haven't you been paying your loans?
Every Tuesday.
You're just trying to gauge the bottom.
Just kind of dual questions here. So Dustin, when we're filling out the contract, we've got the deposit and then we've got the measure payment and then we've got the final payment, but clearly those are not going to work with this program. Do we need to fill the paperwork out differently, or are we explaining to the customer?
By the time you get to your first appointment, Lindsay will have all that information.
I just wanted to clarify something. You had one of the guys who had a good question around if we reach the end of 30 days and we haven't had the authorization to actually use a card yet because the work hasn't begun. So I think we made a mistake. So it's not when you click that button, it's when you actually swipe the card. So the hard pull only happens when you take that card and process it. So in this case, if you reach the 28th day and you guys are not ready to start the work, you don't have to swipe that card. You can just reapply. There's no hard pull at all. And then you get an extra 30 days. And the likelihood of them not being approved for the same amount after 30 days is very minimal.
Yeah.
So
They just when they submit the application, there's a little checkbox that says, right, they're going to post a hard pull when the card is used because there's no more customer consent, essentially, no more explicit consent when we use the card, and so we have to put that on the step before. So it might be a little bit confusing. But yeah, if you don't use the card, there's no impact whatsoever.
So Dustin, is this replacing what we currently have? No, it's in addition to that. So can I ask, why I'm in the room is, what's the benefit of going? I was going to say besides 2%, and they buy Pound Deeper plus basically the soft pull off the start, rather than a hard pull.
Yeah. So I think that's a really big differentiator is they're going to be able to see the 3, 6, 12-month terms without a hard pull.
Yeah. This really works well for people that can already pay cash. Yeah. This is if they can't already pay cash.
Or people with challenging credit in the real job.
So when they sign up for 12 months, is that 12 payments and 6 months of 6 payments? There's no way
Yes.
to 12 months for 3 payments, 4 payments, right?
No.
Every month.
No,
Is there
it's
any
going to be a
issue
monthly.
with, if they want to pay it off quicker, can they, or it's all just coming from the
If
debit
they
card automatically?
if they want to pay it off faster, they can. So when they
He's shaking his head no. He's thinking
Yeah, no, sorry. I said there's no issue, they can pay it off, so.
no issue, yes, they can. Yeah. So
And how would
So-
you do that?
Sorry,
Would
Nick,
they
you had a
just
question.
reach out to the
yeah.
guy
So
and say,
well, sorry, guys. Can we finish? So when they take out the loan, they're going to get like a dashboard that they can log into, and they can track their repayment history. They can add another payment, and there's no prepayment penalties. It's fine. So if they decide, you know, I have 2 more payments left, I can easily just finish it right here, right now. They can do that, and that's totally fine
through their dashboard?
through their dashboard, and they can go on and add an additional payment. So that should not be an issue for them.
This
Yeah.
is only up to $15,000.
Up to $15,000. Yeah.
It's like an entry system or something like that. You get it.
Pre-order.
All right, Nick, you can get your question now.
Yeah, so homeowners are gonna ask us about like late payments. I know these are auto payments, but let's say you get a new debit card.
Okay.
So that could be a spot where you get a late payment, and then past 12 months, what happens? Just so we
Yeah,
know.
so for late payments, again, if you guys run the 0% program, so if they're on a manual payment program, there's 4%. The only late payment they will get is accrued interest on what they haven't paid back. Okay? So we don't actually have any like hidden fees. There's no late fees. There's nothing like that. It's sort of not in the modus operandi of Square. For the 0% program, typically with 0%, you also get like this idea of deferred interest, where if you don't pay it back in the promotional period, it like balloons and you get like a 29%. It's typically not something we want to do either. It's very penalizing to someone who didn't read the fine print. So we don't actually do that right now. The 0% program is quite new, and we're learning a lot about loss rates and how we're getting the money back. For now, I would say the only recourse that we do have, if you decide not to pay us back on a 0% APR, is anytime somebody accepts that purple button for that loan, they are entering into a contract with us. So we can, our recourse is we can subpoena them for that amount, but there's no like soft penalty around deferred interest or late fees right now.
Oh, and on the debit card part, so you can like, if they have a new debit card or want to change their payment method, they can always log into the dashboard and do that. So they don't have to, like, they can also call us to do it, but takes like a minute, and each email kind of has a link to the dashboard and even has a update your payment method. So that hopefully shouldn't cause any issues.
I mean, the payment's pretty easy to figure out, right? There's no interest, so it's.
Yeah.
principal.
Yeah.
On the computer.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question. You say you don't do a hard pull until it's actually used. That's kind of backwards. And it was what paint a scenario, you've got somebody who squeaks by at a 581 or something on your soft pull. He's down to 540 at the hard pull. You guys turn down?
No, I mean, well, so theoretically, yes. If there's significant drift kind of between.
That's a little shocking, when you're at this mark.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in general, like credit scores don't change a whole lot within a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and so unless that person has like 3 new like late payments or delinquencies kind of hit them like in that cycle. At least so far, we haven't actually like off the loans we've made, we haven't seen much kind of like thrift. Yeah.
So like, do we just take this credit card and hammer it through our terminal, or do we take a picture and send it to you? Because when I take a deposit, you gotta take a deposit on these things, you gotta hammer the new financing immediately.
Good question, I don't know. I know.
You can't actually run this card.
It sounds like you have to take a deposit on this program.
I would suggest you can deposit anyway.
Yes, but I mean, like, for sure, like, 'cause you gotta hammer the card.
Well, and it's the thing though, is that you maybe don't use this for the deposit. You use
Yeah.
the credit card.
Yeah, you can actually not. So you can't run this. So it looks like a credit card. This is not actually a Visa or MasterCard credit card. So this is a Square internal card that will only work within Square.
You
So
only hit it once anyway.
yeah, you can only hit it once, but you can also only hit it with a Square kind of payment register. If you put this in like in another payment process, that will fail.
Yeah, and I think we'd also
That's
recommend.
good to know. So
I think-
don't use it in authorized that night, guys. Got it.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
we-
let's
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Let's get into how like what happens kind of on the back end here for you guys. So first of all, you're going to have to provide them with that price. And then you're going to have to direct them to the application through the URL bookmarked on the iPad, or if they prefer entry on their own device, however they feel most comfortable doing it. It's probably easiest for you guys just to use the bookmark one on the iPad. And then the whole process is really kind of like driven by the customer providing information. Really where you come back in is accepting that payment. So this is a scenario where if you're on site, they're going to get that 16-digit card. You can then screenshot that, package it all together in Leap, and then there's going to be a Square Installments like drop-down option they're going to build out for you for a payment method. You're going to select that, and then accounting is going to handle the rest of it. If you are, I'm going to have to pull this up manually. If you are in the showroom, you're going to enter that 16-digit number card straight into either virtual terminal, or if you have the app on the iPad, you can do that, but I think they're going with virtual terminal. Yeah, virtual terminal. Okay, perfect. No one's doing that? Okay, cool. Well, then this is the applicable one.
Are you guys back there at the accounting side, or what's your domain? Yeah.
No.
Janitorial.
You don't know who they are. That's good. You got some vengeance there. That's good.
So basically, it boils down to like, they don't get paid, I don't get paid, so these are the questions that I'm asking. Like, if the company doesn't get paid, they can't pay me.
Okay.
Or we do, and then, you know.
And then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Accounting's gonna handle it, it's have an open.
Totally.
statement.
I think, yeah, I think so. I don't know if you need to know this, but they're going to put this card on authorize.net, and then accounting, once they get the go-ahead from you guys to actually process the card, they'll just take that card and put it into what we're calling virtual terminal, which is a tool that we have for them, and then that card goes through. So you guys don't have to worry about that stuff. Just send them a picture of the card, and everything's kosher. Everything's great.
But when we input deposit from authorize.net, it's a separate credit card versus debit card.
Right now, we're not issuing, we can get the detail on what you're using.
Correct.
Right now, we just want to educate you on what is here and what is coming, and then we'll give you the full detail on what we're.
So when is this gonna be active?
Very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon. Very soon. Right now, it looks like once you see an email come out with a detail or a text message or something. Email.
Email.
Yeah, once we get that thing going, once I get the thing to you from the other thing, on that, get the thing to you, what's it called? Yeah.
So help us understand the advantage from a customer point of view to this.
So, I mean, the biggest advantage is it's a very easy application, I would say. And they get a real-time decision as to whether they're approved or not. And then payback is relatively straightforward. So we're sending them messages, they can log into the dashboard. If it's automatic payments, it's done immediately. And then of course it's 0%. And I know you guys have that with your other programs as well, but that's also a benefit. And then one of the things that we're constantly trying to do on the back end is we talked about like how there was a FICO score, but that's, we have 100 other attributes that we're looking at. We have a machine learning model that we're also looking at. That's going to evolve over time. And one of our goals is, and one of our advantages that we hope to find is, are we able to serve people who other credit providers wouldn't be able to, because they're looking at a very narrow view of things, whereas we're looking at a broader set of things. And so if we can find those people that ordinarily wouldn't be getting credit, we can pinpoint them, give them the opportunities that they deserve, and lower our loss rates.
And we don't have to 5 extra forms from Greensburg. They're right there.
Yeah, you got a lot of paperwork from GreenSky, I heard, right? There's no paperwork here, none of that.
So can this be used in conjunction with any of the other programs we have? In other words, you have a $25,000 deal, they use this for the first payment and other financing for the second half.
That's a good question, Kelly.
I think
You definitely should not say that.
her thought, so I can't speak for her, she'll have a much better answers, but her thought when we went to Albuquerque was to use installments on the remaining balance. So do the deposit with either all cash or other mechanisms, but installments would be good. If you could make that remaining balance 15,000, then use installments for it.
Yeah.
Is there anything more you want to go over?
Obviously, you guys are going to be going into like the installment loans then, too.
So they already have them.
Yeah, well, okay. So
Yeah, we're neck deep in those.
you are. So
Up to 24%.
I saw.
All right. It's generally like a high risk. That's from what I know it's like a pay to pay, like person to person pay is what I knew from the back in the days. When I lived in Dallas, I paid my lease payments to the first people on Square. I pay basically.
Oh, I see.
I get on Square and I pay my mortgage pay or my lease pay every month to my rental people.
Okay.
Kind of like a Venmo thing.
Oh, I see.
That's how I did the name Square.
I see.
And literally, and then sometimes when you do like pool loans and things like that, I've seen you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, traditionally Square has been a payment processor. So if you go to like coffee shops and then small stores, exactly, you swipe your card over there. And then we have Square Cash, which is like the thing you're talking about. You can send payments directly to each other. And now we're sort of going into, we do business to business financing. And now we're going into business to consumer financing. So that's Square Installments is our first product in that division.
So the $15,000 limit, is that imposed by you, or is that just something that we're choosing?
So initially we had 10,000.
Could you do like a husband and a wife, 15,000 with the same driver?
I mean, I would say there's nothing.
Well,
Yeah.
if the limit is 15,000, is that a Square limit?
So-
Or is that-
Yeah,
the
that's a Square limit.
Yeah.
The limit is from us, like the program was relatively new, and so we wanted to kind of like learn a little bit more and gather a little bit more data before we go into like really long-term lengths, right? Especially right if you do like $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, like a 12 or 24 month loan, doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Like you have like mortgage-like payments essentially, and so I think you want to stay away from these really long-term loans for a while, just because we have only been around since October of last year, so we haven't even seen like one tranche of 12-month loans fully mature, and so it's really all about learning. But I think on the second comment on husband and wife, 15K each.
It's a different account, right?
Theoretically,
Different
yeah. I mean,
debit
I would say you need like the only restrictions is the debit card used needs to match the account holder's name. And so as long as they have debit cards in each individual's name, that's fine. We're not necessarily like imposing a household limit or anything. There's no co-underwriting with your spouse. So you could do two separate loans there.
Can you do two separate loans to one customer?
No.
In other words, okay, so
No, so you
15,000 to one
get
customer.
one.
Yeah. The limit is kind of like on the same social and name that would be
Yeah.
get capped.
Actually, that is a question that came up in other locations as well. So say you're 6 months into the job and another cost comes up. If they have not paid off the initial loan yet, they're not going to be eligible for a second, and they would have to find another means of financing that additional cost. Yes, yes, it's going to have to be just one.
So it's per client? I didn't understand. Can you use that?
Yeah, so
Yeah, so as long as the person's name matches the name associated with the debit card, it'll be fine.
So just as an example, and Thorsten, please check me on this. So if you go to a household where there's a husband and wife, and they have different accounts, so the husband has debit card, wife has debit card, separate accounts, then if one application has the husband's name and uses the husband's debit card, that's fine. If another application has the wife's name and uses the wife's debit card, that's fine.
But we don't do that on our.
We could.
You could do that.
You want to split the cost?
You gotta have two contracts.
It would be 2 loan contracts on our end. Yes.
You do the same thing on your end too.
Need two contracts for green stuff?
Yeah.
Are you talking about?
Yeah. No, I don't think we would necessarily. I think it could be one contract. I picked Jackie.
Okay.
So in Leap, you would just take a screenshot of both card numbers and add that to the package when you send that to finance. And they would.
You would stagger those, I mean, because one's gonna pay maybe half the job, the other half would be the husband, or.
You can do
I mean,
that.
that's not our
Yeah.
concern. If
I mean-
you guys have it worked out.
No, I mean, we don't know the difference as long as the application name matches the debit card name, right? So
Yeah.
if you're in the same household, this the loan application. Yeah, so in the first 3 steps, whatever name they put in, first name, last name, all those details, has to match the debit card.
Yeah.
Yes. So you could stagger it. That's totally reasonable.
You could, but then that would be something like maybe include in a note to finance to say like, and that would be on there, and like we wouldn't have a way of controlling that. Yeah.
It's not that difficult.
It'd be just like it would be two different green sky applications, same thing. Two green sky, one property, one contract.
So we have 10 minutes left. Are we done our side? Are we done presenting our side?
Yeah, I think we're done on our side.
Orange County, haven't heard from you guys. Are there any questions you guys have for us?
Muted.
How do we unmute them?
Can I unmute them, or do they unmute themselves?
We're good. We'll get them to sing.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any free trips or anything?
What kind of bribery?
Yeah, how's that extra 2% that you make out of it?
2%?
Well, I want some of them.
So that like square number, is like square number, like it's not a piece or math square.
Yeah, and it'll only work for you guys. Like they could not take that card number to, I don't know, Toys R Us and buy $15,000 worth of toys. Like no.
You can't take anything to Toys R Us.
That's actually a great point. But yeah, so it only would work for you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thanks guys. I think we're going to be here for like the next 20 minutes. So if you have any questions private, please feel free to come by. Thanks so much.
Hey guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate you guys coming in. You have anybody have any last questions that are relevant? No irrelevant questions or okay. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate you guys coming, and thanks for taking the time to come in today.
Yeah,
Pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. Great, guys.
Cool.
Cool. All right. I'm gonna.
Yeah. No. Whatever we need to do here. Thank you.
Yeah, I think
for-
Lindsay over there, and they're going to basically be the administrative side on it. So they're going to help us
Yeah.
put together a list. So any information you can get to them, like bullet points, do's, don'ts, that type of stuff.
Great.
They're going to be dictating and getting the information
Yeah,
out to the team.
that sounds good. And then our colleague Larry, I think, is also going to schedule a time to talk with her about back end, how that's going to all work. So.
Okay, because they'll be ready to get moving once we get all the rest of the
Awesome.
information.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys
Thank
coming in,
you.
and you guys Californians, or you guys?
We are.
Yeah, there you go. So not going back to any hellhole or anything. Nope. All right, well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, Mark, come on up.
What's Mark's iPhone?
I don't know what Mark's iPhone is. Here, wait. There we go. Now we're back on.
All right, so they stepped out. So, anything? How many people are going to use it? All right, I mean, 2%, it's 2%.
If somebody wants to pay cash, I'm gonna say, hey, we gotta.
There you go, there you go. All right, so I'm gonna start off here, let's pull this up. Let's get you, there we go. All right, 2 days, last 2 days to vote. If you haven't voted today, please vote. If you haven't voted twice or 3 times, please vote. So tomorrow, it actually ends at noon tomorrow. So make sure you get it in before noon. So it's our last ditch effort to be able to get our name on that list. We want to be San Diego's best. That'll give us a lot of promotional. We'll be able to highlight that. So anybody that's complaining that we're not getting enough promotion and we're not highlighting Dreamstar Remodeling, this is your chance, last chance. So I'm just reminding you right now, okay? Thanks, guys. Bye, guys.
Don't forget to vote.
We won't.
And then how soon do we know?
I don't know. I don't have any idea. Yeah, whenever they process it.
Years down the road.
Yeah.
As soon as our email gets up, I'll let you know. As soon as our email gets up, I'll let you know.
Exactly. All right, so
now that they're gone, we can talk about what we got going on here with Green Sky. So biggest savings of the year, we've been asking for this. So this is backed by popular demand. If you haven't already seen it or heard of it, starting today, it'll be in Leap by 3 o'clock today. So this will be available.
Wow.
So buy one window or door, you get the second one 50% off. We already got the toggle for that, so that's not a difficult one. Or, wow, 3 years, no interest. How many people remember that one? You can only quiet. You can only discount 30% on that. We gotta leave 5% in. So 36 months no interest. We only discount through 30%. Not 35, 30%.
So one toggle.
Do not take
One additional toggle, not both.
Correct. Excuse me. Yeah. So
This is a test, by the way. I fought my ass off to get this. So
Wait, no, that's good.
So, I've been fighting for a while, so that's why I said, well, limit the discount to get the program because the payments itself, right? So, because at the end of the day, you're selling at 30, you're selling at 35, it doesn't matter. So again, you're selling payment, and I got that 36 months no interest. Prove to us that we need to keep it. So let's spike the sales like crazy right now and use this thing every way we can do it. If you got somebody that called you back on a previous set, and basically we can use this, twist them, call me, get approval, and we'll work out what we need to work out. So let's, again, get very aggressive with this, because I think it's gonna be a big thing.
Yep.
For sure. Now we'll get the phone to ring like crazy.
And these are equal payments, right?
Equal payment.
yes, so let's talk about that. These are equal payments, and they're equal payments 30 days from approval.
There's a reason why I printed that thing out and the basic price presentation sheet. So you can take that off this, you can take it off of the basic iPad if you need to until basic gets updated. So that's why there's 50 copies printed and we'll print another 100 more over the showroom. But making sure that you guys have that information so you can scale it down.
But let me, because there was a time where the 3 years, you would have the first 5 months, it would be interest only, and since there was no interest, they make no payments. They changed that toward the end of last year. So remember, when they're fixed principal payments, they start 30 days from approval. So once they're approved, that first statement will be that first principal payment. So they 30 days after.
This is 3 years, your interest after your payment.
That is correct. That is correct.
Why is it saying finance charges will be waived if someone else is paid within 3 years?
Because there's no interest unless you pay at 37
I get you,
months.
but you're making monthly payments. You're gonna pay it off.
Yeah, but if they miss a payment or if they,
On the loan.
yes.
I got it.
Yep.
That keeps people honest too.
3 years of monthly payments.
All right, so a couple things. Down payment may be required. It is required. So please, you want to make sure you have a deposit, okay? We need skin in the game. Otherwise, the biggest problem with this plan was cancellations. People were canceling because they had no skin in the game, rescission. So let's make sure we're getting some deposit, all right? Ideally, if you want to do 10%, that's great, but we got to get something. We can't have them canceling the moment you sign the deal. Now, what this does do is this gets the phone to ring. So we were talking about, lack of leads, kind of ebbs and flows. Whenever we had this promo, we get the phone to ring. So it's a great opportunity. Hopefully, we're taking advantage of this. We're talking about it. Hopefully we'll have it. They're going to show it to you. If you don't, I'll try to send this out so you have it. At least then you can show them this is available. Let them take advantage of it.
Is it legitimately only for four more windows?
You know what? It's what it says. Use it to your advantage.
Oh, of course, yeah. I was trying to sell an extra window.
Yeah, 4 windows, square them up.
There you go. The other thing that I wanted to point out is look at the duration. So obviously we'll most likely be able to go beyond the 22nd, but use this as your urgency. So when the homeowner's like, well, I'm going to think about it. There is no thinking about it. You need to do it today if you want to take advantage of it because, by the 21st, it's done, it's over. So get that urgency, make sure they don't push it off to the end of the month or next year. Sell that.
So there is no minimum on the, like, I mean, if they're doing an entry door, they can still use this program, correct?
What's the minimum FICO?
It's just like any standard.
When you get approved for 6.99, then you get approved for the.
Correct.
Okay. You're approved for one, you're approved for.
So the payments are basically whatever their finance amount is.
36.
Because it's a fixed payment. It's 24 months with no interest, no payments. This is a fixed payment. Okay. It's just the fee, dealer fee on this is higher. That's why now I want to prove that. I want to prove you put the financing back in play. Watch what happens to the next.
All right.
Do we have that?
No, you don't, not yet. My guess is because the email, so what I'm gonna do is I can airdrop that to everybody in here. As long as your iPad or phone's on, I will airdrop it. So you'll get, basically, this is all you really want, but I will send both these. Or I can put it on the string, and then you can just download it from the string. All right?
Can you take that picture yourself?
Well, I superimpose my own picture over it when I hand it to people.
Good. As you should.
Hashtag selfie.
So what do you guys think?
Yeah, literally.
Like about time.
So June is over. June is over. This is the new month. This is July. This is our time to shine. You have the tools. So take advantage of it. What's that?
It's the 4th of July, I love America.
That's what I'm saying.
Buy American.
That's right.
Justin, do you still have the 12 months no interest? You have a couple of them now.
And it's when.
And I'm telling you right now, on that 36 months no interest, no payment, that with special approval, if you call me and you want to do like 24 months no interest, no payment, that's both the same dealer fee.
But this is no interest with payment.
There's no interest with payment. 24 months.
Must be 36 months.
So again, if you have a weird situation, then call me before you leave the house. Don't just do it. I wanna know about it.
So we can do 24 months no interest.
If we need to,
Yeah.
just realize that we do those no interest, no payments. You divide out what that payment would be if they pay that out and ask them if something were to happen, whether emergency or there's that emergency or something like that, would you still feel comfortable paying that out in 24 months?
Yeah.
So that's why, that's where 18 months or 12 months. That's how you get away from cancels on that, because they're thinking 12 months not a big deal, and when they start dividing out that amount by 12 months, they're like, oh shit. So again, that's why those cancellations are higher on things like that, because they're decided at the moment. And they say, well, I got 12 months paid off. They're like, oh shit, that's like 1,400 extra bucks a month.
What's the cap on it for the dollar amount?
Same thing, 65 grand each.
Yep.
So if we can't reach you, are we good on 18 months, no interest, no payment?
Yeah, you'll be able to reach me. I'm not, this month, I'm all over. You're not gonna, there will be a time where you can call me in the house, I will stop what I'm doing and pick the phone up.
Unless he's with you, then you can just ask him.
Unless he doesn't. Unless I doesn't, and then you can claim guilty.
I might text you and tell you to call Mark.
Yeah. If it's got.
And that's fine. All right, so this is good news. Hopefully you guys, go ahead,
I
Jason.
just want to ask, so this basically is us pushing our 25% coupon, right? Buy one, get one.
Yes.
It's
Yes, or.
So they can either get 25% off or 3 years.
You can either get 35% off max with basically the buy one, get one 25. And basically you can offer 6.99 and all those other programs still, or you can give 30% off and do 3 years, no interest, no payment. Or no interest, no payments.
You still do the 25%, and you can get the 5% for right now.
Correct.
So you can either, or. You use 36 months, you gotta stop at 30%. We're paying that fee no matter what as a company, so it's how getting them around that, okay, so.
Or you give it 35%.
Or actually,
That's
your
what
jobs,
clients do.
So we can pad it though,
Yes. Yes.
By the end of the week, you'll see a reduction.
Okay, so any other questions on this? So have at it. Have a great month. Last time we ran this, we had a great closing percentage that month. So it's been a long time. The other thing you want to let homeowners know, don't expect us to be back around anytime soon. So it's been 7 months now, maybe 8 months since the last time we had this promo.
Prove to them why we want to keep it.
Yep.
Prove to them why we want to keep it. This is your shot. Prove to them why we want to keep it.
All right. All right, preparation to success. So one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about, and this is just an area that I feel like when I'm riding with people, just small things, but we're constantly trying to get better. So we need to be masters of our trade. We need to be professionals all the way through. So I'm just using this simple quote. So you give, if I gave you 6 hours to chop down a tree, this particular person says, I would spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And there was an old story, I think Dustin used to tell us about that, where they have multiple guys and they're all cutting down trees, and the one guy wouldn't cut it down. He just sat there the whole time as he sharpened his axe, and he was able to cut down more trees than the other guys that took off cutting down trees. So if you got a dull tool, it's not going to work very well. So one of the things, our tool obviously is between our ears. That's a huge tool. The tools that we have is the process that we have. So the iPad, the Keynote, all of those are tools. Other tools that we use day in and day out is your equipment as well as demos, window demo, glass demo, things like this. So the one thing that is kind of my pet peeve is if we're going to be professionals and if we're selling high-end windows at a higher cost than the competition, we need to present ourselves as those high-end professionals. Like selling a Lexus or selling a high-end BMW. You know, you don't want dirt and crap all over the car when you're trying to sell this beautiful upscale car. Same thing with our product. If your windows, your samples have blemish, fingerprints all over it. If your lamp demo panes have fingerprints all over it, that's where the customers are going to focus. They're going to look at that. They're going to look at the dirty samples. If you're not taking the time to be able to clean this before you start that appointment, because most likely you've got smudge all over it the time before, same thing true. I've been out with people where there are so many fingerprints on their iPad and they're going through the Keynote. That can be a huge distraction. We always learn, even in pharmaceuticals, that nails. So if your nails aren't trimmed, they're dirty, people see that. They're going to look at imperfections. Use the pen, things like that is what we were always trained. I'm just saying imperfections are finger smudges on a screen that are so bad that that's all you see in the glare is the finger smudges. That will distract a homeowner. It doesn't come across as professional. So these are just small little things to think about, but take the time. Preparation is such a big part of our 6 Ps. So if you're preparing before you walk into the door, that means cleaning your tools, making sure they're sharp so that when you're inside, you're going to have a phenomenal job.
No, just, I was wondering, are we going to be getting new vinyl window samples?
Yes.
The ones, because the ones that we have right now have minor edges on them.
Well, it's only 350, so. But it's only 350.
No, the 250 has no minor corner.
There's a pretty good change that I'm working on right now on I don't want to speak about it too soon, but there's a pretty awesome change to really come down the alleyway on the vinyl side of the road. So I don't want to say the word private label to somebody, but I do want to say the word private label to somebody on some cool things we're working on. So yes, there'll be some pretty good size changes on that. Right now, I'll follow up with Sean on the samples. But,
Yeah, because that's a good, unique selling advantage to, the color vinyl windows. They don't have that ugly corner.
Yeah,
We could get
thermal
like
weld.
a black one with a white interior with no minor corners. That would be nice.
no grid.
No grid. Like I ordered the first time?
And no grid.
No grids.
We are not in Kansas anymore. We're in.
People don't want grids
They don't
anymore.
want grids, and then when you show them, they're like, it's coming with those,
And even in the HOA, they're like, no, we gotta.
Black, white, no grids. No minor corners.
Again, I didn't order, that's not what I ordered from Kansas, but Kansas has come into basically California and kicked your butt. So therefore, basically, let me make sure I tell you that I agree with you. But I have ordered some ones on the side that are coming in that don't have the grids and are the right color schemes I want to. So it's, again, I agree with you on it, but the last thing we want to do is go in and be pushing vinyl. Yeah, because then you're still going to see the same as anyways. So that's kind of a relevant conversation.
All right, last quote, proper preparation prevents poor performance. So just make sure you're prepared before you walk in the door, be early, be prepared, have everything ready to go. All right? Yep. All right, please.
All right.
Thanks, Mark. Are you gonna airdrop that stuff? I'm gonna do it right now. And I'll also put it on the Disney.
All right. So.
Is the 36 on there right now?
No, it's 3 o'clock.
3.
Said that once or twice.
Does that mean the 60 month is coming back?
No, I think they did away with that one, to be honest with you. Yeah, trust me, I'd love to have all those back. 2.99 is not even available for 120 anymore. It's only available for 80. Yep. All right, so real quick, I want everybody watch. I played this a year ago, okay? So I want you to watch this video, and I need you just to shut your brain off for a minute. Like, put your iPads down. Don't be focused on anything. I want you to watch this, and I want you to think about relevancy to what we're doing now and basically what you're doing in your career. I want you to think about this and just put yourself in the position of what we're getting ready to listen to here. So. Put phones and iPads down. So when you watch that, right, it's kind of keeps you on the edge because you don't want the little cub to get ate, right? How would you relate that little video clip to business? How would you relate that to a stance of where you're at right now or where we're at right now? What would you give me an idea? What does that mean to you when you watch that? How do you relate that?
We're fighting for our lives.
But there's always help.
Okay.
You're a mama bear.
That cub gave it everything he had at the end.
When he was forced to turn around and fight, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of rolls on the word fear, right? You look at fear, you can fear everything and run, you can face everything and rise, right? Just the two meanings of fear. We look at it. So how I thought about it when I was watching it, because I was trying to think about what I was going to talk to kind of get wrapped around it. You watch what the little cub did at the end of it, where he was forced to turn around and fight. He gave it everything he could, knowing he was going to leave nothing on the end, right? If you think about a presentation, and think about what we do on a day-to-day basis when we go out there, we're just like that cub. If we walk in there and our confidence is low, we're going to be finding a way out of there, right? Instead of facing our fears and basically backing up and figuring it out. It's like when I talk about when you need to make a sale, it's really hard to make a sale, right? When you need to make a paycheck, it's almost impossible to make a paycheck. It seems like nothing will fall in your lap the right way. But it has to do when you turn around and you get that confidence and you start clicking a couple sales, then the sales come easy, right? Or basically you reset your mind. And you look at Mama Bear was in the back, and he didn't realize Mama Bear was in the back or Daddy Bear was in the back to save his rear end there. But at the end of it, when he was done running and he had nothing left, he was sitting there ready to fight. And sometimes we don't do it till it's too late. So again, that's why it kind of rolled back into figuring out why I get so upset sometimes about like training and wanting it more than some people I feel like want it for themselves, or basically setting arrogance and confidence aside and basically realizing that sometimes we need help. And it happens to the best of us. The hardest thing to do in a professional career or as a professional is to admit that you need help that you can't help yourself with, right? And it happens. And I've watched it happen time after time after time again. Mike Hauser used to say, hey, let me take you to lunch because last time I took you to lunch, man, I went on fire, right? Whereas basically these little aspects we get into because sometimes we can't see the base of the forest through the trees. Right? We get stuck. We cut off our nose to spite our face because we're worried about things that we can't control. And we let that consume our every thought rather than basically worrying about the things that we can control, right? So this morning, I was talking to a good buddy of mine, and I said, hey, I need you to throw some positivity on me. Throw something at me that's going to redirect my thinking. I need you to throw some love at me. I've done it for him lots, right? If he was taking on a new position, starting to build his position up, and he was not bragging, but he was calling me with some of the accolades they had done over the weekend. And compared to what we've done in here, it's not that great, but it's pretty good, right? But right now, his mindset, I realized, was a mindset that I wanted to copy. Because he's right now in a success mindset where he feels like, and he's in a position he can't lose. Because he's got himself and his team so focused on the prize at the end of it, they're not worried about the objections or the stalls or anything of that nature. He told me, Dustin, it's exactly what you told me. It's identical to what you told me. And it made me think of that bear running around, right? It's exactly what you told me, right? What's your why? What's their why? What's your why going out every day? Why in 2019 Do you show up to work every day and go to try to help people fix their problems? Why do you do that? Why do you represent the brand you represent? Why do basically you go out there and try to do this to make a living with people, and you're not out on being an accountant or a bookkeeper or whatever else little things in life that you can do? What's your why? You know, I tell you, a lot of us do it, instant gratification, right? A lot of basic people in our industry about instant gratification. The amount of money you can make in direct sales, especially here we've seen it, is gigantic. You can make a lot of money, but it all has to do with sitting right here in between your ears, right? And if you don't understand what your motive is, every day you get up and go to work, and every day, every time you go up and sit in front of somebody's house, and you go in there to help them, if you don't understand what your why is first, then it's hard to connect with what their why is, because it's not important because you're too worried about you. If you feel like I got to make a paycheck, or I need to go out, I've had a rough week, and I walk into that house, I've got clouded judgment. My judgment isn't laser focused, right? Because this is psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, you are psychology majors. This is what we do, is we are in there to get inside the perspective mind of the customer. And a lot of things they tell us up front, that they tell you the reasons why they do windows, are upfront stalls, they're upfront objections, they're upfront truths, because they don't really want you to know the real reason. Maybe they tell you that they just think about getting their windows replaced, and you're thinking it's because the dust in the seals, you're thinking it's because the heat coming in. It could be that their partner or wife or spouse or kids are going to relate to this, and they could have a terminal illness that you don't even know about. And you might think that you're going at one set of whys, which it might be a completely different thing. You know, do you understand what the number one reason why you're in that house and why they're buying? Not just the stuff they told you on the surface right when you walked in the house, but did you really break down the barrier and get to know why you're there? And I can tell you, when you get in a rut and you need to make a paycheck, the answer is no. You can think you do, and you can think you leave it in the car, but we don't. And so secondly, what's their why? And then, you know, we talk about what's their shrine. That's not necessarily just meaning what they spend their money on, whether it's golf clubs or cars or basically fishing equipment or TVs or whatever else the hell they spend their money on. Nice shoes, purses, makeup, whatever it might be. It's the center focus around why they exist, why they live. Why would they be replacing their windows in the first place? Right? What I always tell people is, think about it. Even if it's a proximity or an events appointment, right? Which means that they think they're a year or two out from doing something like this. Why in the hell would they let you out at the house to give them an estimate if they weren't seriously considering doing windows? Think about that. Why would they let you in their house if they seriously weren't considering doing windows someday? And the answer is they wouldn't. The problem is we didn't figure out their why because you weren't clear on your why. And today when my buddy was talking about this to me, I'm like, shoot, right? Because I get so mad and I lose my clarity because I get frustrated when we're not doing things that I know we should be doing. Which is why poor Dave got beat up the other morning because he didn't know one of his commitments. So I let it be known. I freaked out. I'm like, how long do we have to do the same thing over and over again, right? I'm sick of doing it. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, the point was made clear. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know why you do it, then it's just an action that doesn't mean anything. But you're really understanding how certain things become important to you. If I'm in a house and I don't price impression, I don't use my sheet to price impression. And I think I'm good enough to give verbal vomit, and they're going to remember that in their 20-minute time span in a 2-hour presentation. Good luck. If the human brain can only retain 20 minutes of information, and I don't have something on the paper that I can reference back to, then I haven't done my full job, and my clarity sucks because I'm expecting them to remember something that their mind can't remember. It's like if somebody was a computer programmer, and they were teaching you how to program a computer, and you've never programmed a computer for your entire life, and they're using all these different technical terms on you, and you're sitting there in front of them trying to learn all these technical terms, and you weren't taking notes or remembering anything, you would remember a damn thing when they were done. If they weren't writing stuff down and sharing with you and making salient points, Kind of like, hey, I want to store basically 200 songs on my phone. So I don't, not that I need a 34 gig or 64 gig or 124 meg, whatever else I might need on that, that might not make sense to somebody. But if I know my storage capability is this, that may make sense, right? So if you talk about argon gas leaking out, well, why in the hell is that important? If you're talking about basically San Diego Reflash and water management, why is that important? Why is that a why? Why is that important to them? It's not about your words. It's about relating to their why or their shrine. Hey, you don't have this right. That doesn't matter. You're not going to focus on it anyways. You're going to tell yourself you're focusing and you're doing everything you can do, but you're not. You know, a year and a half ago when I showed up, the same exact mistakes we're making now were the same exact mistakes we were making then. And yes, we've lost financing programs. They've changed brands. We've done this. It doesn't matter. It's the same process. The same stuff we're doing, I've used throughout my entire career working for companies called Bathworks, Jubilee, basically Pacesetter, Champion, you know, Renewal by Anderson, now basically here, right? And I've even we worked for a place called Admiral Home Solutions, which was the worst toilet company I've ever seen in my entire life. I worked there for 3 weeks, and I still sold 200 grand, used the same damn process. So it's not about the name you represent, it's about you and following a process when you're in the house. The process is what sells, okay? That's what sells, because at the end of it, when you walk into a house, they don't know your company from Adam. The second they connect with you, they know within about 10 or 15 minutes that they trust you enough to buy. And if all you do is have verbal vomit or diarrhea of the mouth, and all you're doing is throwing statistic and information and clerical stuff, and you're not listening more than you're talking, we're in big trouble. If you listen better, you'll sell more, right? Basic, simple stuff, right? If you listen better, you'll sell more. What happens a lot of times when we get into ruts and we stop selling is we forget to listen because we're too busy telling. And if I'm trying to convince you into something, if I'm telling you term after term after term after term after basically statistic after everything else, and I'm trying to convince you, and I'm spending more time trying to sell you and convince you on something, I'm not doing a good enough job listening because I haven't heard the reasons why. And the cool thing is, you guys that have ever done the pen exercise with me, or basically the eraser or the controller, where we take it through the needs analysis, right? What do they have now? What do they enjoy? What things they want to alter or change about what they currently have? And then after that, do we design a solution based off what they have now, what they want to change, and then basically what they enjoy about it? And that's how we relate the solution to them. Windows, doors, bathrooms, any of that stuff is exactly the same. There's nothing different. It's all about what they're dealing with, what challenges they're having, what design or dissatisfactions are going on with what their current process is. They wave a magic wand. What would it be 6 months from now that they'd want to change that their current one's not doing now? And then why is that a pain in your butt? Why does that hurt? Why is it even a big deal? Tell me a situation when you were dealing with that affected you to the point where you now know you need to get it replaced. What is it about that? Instead of saying, oh yeah, this track is bent and this is rusty and I can see how hard this thing is to do. That's all you taking ownership of their problem. Tell me about a situation when this is happening to you, why you felt like this needed to be replaced anyways. What happened? How much time did you spend doing that? That sounds frustrating. Did you put WD-40? What did you do? Well, I did this. How did it work? Well, it worked for about 30 days and then it went right back to it again. That sounds frustrating. So let me ask you, you give up trying to fix it on your own? Yes. What made you say that? In fact, my wife is screaming at me every day telling me I've made a mistake. I'm done screwing with it. Cool. Or whatever it might be. But again, if I don't understand that scenario of the why, all I'm doing is verbal vomiting. And if I verbal vomit at the end of it, because that's what normal salespeople do, is they try to throw information and more 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 information to where they just can't take any more in. New information does equal new decisions if presented with the right facts, right? The reason why we do a romancing the basic project before we deliver that is because you've given them an hour and a half worth of verbal vomit, right? An hour and a half worth of verbal vomit. So if we don't condense it down, just like going into a law, like a legal room, where basically you got a lawyer sitting through there that's going to present this closing statement to the jury before they convict or not convict this person. That's the last time I have to make an impressionable difference on their lives. The last time I have to make a basically inspirational speech that's going to affect them in their life. It's the last time I have to enchant them and make them fall in love with the very things that are setting them. Right? Apple's about enchantment, they're not about discounts, right? Everybody owns Apple. They don't offer a bigger discount than anyone else. They don't offer a better finance term. They enchant you with the products. It's a big deal to walk around with these stupid ass things, right? $150 for these stupid little things, $60, $200, whatever they are, and you see people walking around like they're going out of style, right? The iPhone, $700 to $1,000 a little iPhone, right? Everybody's walking around with them, and now you can't picture life without them because they've sold you on that slice of life. So what is it that you're doing in the house that's enchanting and filling them up before you pour out? How are you filling up with them, their life, their situation, their environment, how they use that door, how many times they use that door, how many times they use their windows, in and out? Tell me the last time that was a problem. Where would you start first? What are those needs? What are those requirements? What the hell is the reason I'm out here? If you had 3 reasons I was out here, why are you thinking about replacing your windows anyways, what would they be? And own it. See, it's about delivery. See, it's about delivery. You get in a house, excitement creates excitement. Verbal vomit turns people off. Okay? And we have to know when to do it, when it's important. Why is what I'm saying relevant to their situation in their house? Why is what I'm saying moving me towards the sale and not away from it? Why is the commitment I'm getting and how I'm getting it important and relevant to helping them move forward on the condition and the environment of what we're dealing with on the house? Sometimes they might not know, so I might need to speak up more on a blue or a white. Sometimes they might want as little information as possible. They want to tell me what's going on, my red and my yellow, and make sure that I understand their situation first before I speak. So again, it's about identifying the people we are, and that's what I'm telling you. This is a freaking art. Sales is an art form. That's why, just like painters, right? Some painters make millions, some make nothing. But everybody can call themselves a painter, just like everybody can call themselves a salesperson, right? Some make hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Some make nothing. So again, it depends on how good you are and how much you've studied and basically mastered your craft, right? If you listen better, you will sell more. If you listen better, you will sell more. We talk about dream style, okay? Removing objections. This is just stuff that's right on our website. It took me literally 2 minutes this morning to pull all this stuff and just screenshot this stuff and throw it on the slide, okay? So it's pretty cool stuff if you really look at it, right? If you want some validation on why we're the biggest, why we're the best, right? Pro Modeler Design Award winner, right? We're basically top design is our kitchen and bath division into it, right? So we got the award-winning basic design feature. They don't know if that's windows. They don't know if that's windows or doors, but guess what we did? Top 550. We're basically ranked right up there in the number one spot. Qualified Remodeler ranked in the number 1 spot. 2018 top places to work for young professionals, right? So we got that top place to work, means that our culture and environment that we do is inviting for young, successful people to come in and grow in their careers. Basically, NARI, National Association Remodeling Industry, right? You have to be in business a minimum of 5 years in good standing to be part of NARI. So again, it's one of those accreditations and things that we have that help us basically go. All of our products are proudly made in America. Right? We look at that Energy Star 2018 Angie List Super Service Award winner, right? House, Best of House for Signature Service on basically in 2019. We already got that award too. So look at all those different accreditations and credentials, right? They're there.
Dustin, can we put that in the keynote?
100%. I already airdropped it all to them, and I can put it in the Keynote in 2 seconds and airdrop it into Keynote. But again, remember, it's finding those things out when you're trying to figure out if you're running into stuff inside the house, what are you doing to make the change, right? If I'm running into objections in the house, instead of Einstein's definition insanity, repeating the same thing over and over again, expect a different result, what are things I could do to put this thing on steroids, right? Again, I clipped these right off basically the Dream Style Remodeling website, and it took me I did it while we were listening to music this morning. It took me less than 2 minutes to do so. So if I want it bad enough, I'm going to make it happen, right? And those are some pretty damn impressive credentials, right? 2017, 2018, largest full service remodel in the United States, not even on that. So when you look at these things, there's a reason why we are what we are, right? Think about it. We don't subcontract our labor. Our people that measure the windows aren't the installer that's going to install them. So therefore, we have basically somebody that's responsible for managing the project from the very beginning to the end. That costs money, right? We have our own insurance, right? We pay our people's gas to get to the job so they don't have gas or basically pull a turnip truck. We pay for insurance, right? Did you know that basically somebody's hurt on your property, that is not covered underneath their homeowner's insurance because that's hired help. Hired help does not cover underneath your homeowner's insurance, means that homeowner is liable if somebody were to get hurt for millions of dollars. Because it's not that they're bad people, but if I got hurt carrying a big window on a ladder and I fell off that ladder and could no longer feed my family, you better bet I'd sue you. And I'm sure you would do the same thing to me if you couldn't feed your family, right? Slice of life. You have to do things and put people in situations that are important to them. If they made a bad decision on something and scared, and you don't spend a lot of time talking about the company and how we're different from what they had before, then you're not spending the right amount of time in the right place. You're selling with your own personal agenda, and you're not selling with what's important to them. Make sense? All that stuff matters, and sometimes we just need a quick check, because a quick check sometimes lets us realize where we could be going in there and think that we're doing everything right, but we're missing one or two key things that'll take us to that next level. Make sense? Because that's what this thing's about. I mean, sales is a weekly reminder on all the things you're screwing up. Because we're humans. We fall into bad habits. We fall into traps of things that we feel like we have control over, but we don't. And if you don't have somebody to pick you up, especially you get that one customer that tells you, are you out of your freaking mind charging that? Are you crazy? Now that sticks with you on 3 or 4 appointments. Now you're not going to be as effective as you were because you let their verbal vomit get all over you. And maybe it was something missed in the presentation. Maybe they were just an asshole. Who knows? But at the end of it, I'm sure you've all had that where it's stuck and it sits in the back of your mind the next time you're going to show an investment to see if they're going to freak out too. Right? That's what having accountability partners and checks and balances are for. Because guess what? When you sell a premium product and you provide a premium service at a top dollar, you're going to run into that. Because some people might think they're listening, but again, if I'm not selling stuff that's keeping them interested through the entire process, then again, I'm just a mouth yapping. I'm just a mouth yapping, and what I'm yapping about doesn't make sense or they don't care about, so it's not important. This piece, I'm not torn about. I just think that some of us can be disciplined enough where we can maneuver product lines, some of us can't. Okay? One of the reasons why we did so well on the last one is because we took one path and we stuck to it to the end, and there was no getting out of it or no moving. So therefore, it forced us to be really good at one thing. Forced us to be really good at one thing. And then now when you got too many product lines, then you try to become good at everything, and unfortunately, it doesn't make you an expert of anything. Therefore, you are just basically at that point slinging product. You're slinging windows. I'm telling you, you've got to make what you're doing relevant to their situation. Even at the end of it, if you're told it's too much money, then at that point, knowing that you're too much money and they're not going to move forward on the product line you're in, at that point, after they've tapped out, then maneuver it around. But if they've gotten 4 estimates on vinyl, and you think going in there with vinyl is going to increase your chance to sell the project, you're completely wrong. Because then you're swimming in a sea of sameness. Then you are becoming all about price. There's nothing unique there. You can talk about difference in polymers and all that other fun stuff after you've already experienced your full throughput. But if you're not starting with Duracast, I didn't call it Impervia, I call it Duracast, or basically EnduraClad or EnduraGuard, which is the wood line products we carry, you're making a serious mistake by not leading with those. Even if the price point's higher than what you're expecting, who cares? You're doing the right thing for the customer. At the end of it, it comes down to price and only price, then maneuver back down to vinyl. Or polymer, you should call it, okay? Because if you don't do that, then you don't give yourself a true chance to be an expert. You can't talk about basically, especially on the hot side of the house, where the sashes meet right in the middle of a frame, and you talk about warping, because again, all the weight's sitting there in the middle where the 2 sashes meet, and it's causing stress on that frame, which means you get a vinyl window, and basically at 121 degrees, they start warping, right? All that water management system, where you got those 2 little buttons on the side called basically weep holes, all that water is going to sit down in the track inside of the window itself and harbor all that water. And eventually that water that sits in there for long periods of time is going to find its way to back up through something if it can't make it out of the existing holes. One of the cool things about Duracast is the way that we weave the mat and the strength of the process, not to mention the baked-on finish we do to make sure you don't have to sand, wax, or seal or any of those other things onto it, creates a strength in the frame itself, so we know when we have a weep hole on this side and this side of the project that we know the water management system is going to work the way it needs to work because we're not worried about the sashes warping the frame. So when we look at that aspect, you got to find ways when you're talking about Impervia or Duracast to talk about why it's relevant to their situation. Expansion and contraction rate the same rate as glass, right? We don't have to wax, we don't have to seal it, it's not porous. There's lots of things in there that matter up. You know, there's some times where size limitations might come in where we'd love to do a 2 panel that's way big, but sometimes maybe that's not the best thing about it. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Think about design, think about this is forever. When's the last time you bought something you never had to replace again, John and Mary? Think about that. When's the last time you bought something you never had to replace again? Most people can't answer that question. And what we're trying to share with you, instead of being penny wise and pound foolish on something like this, sure, you can go pay somebody to do it cheaper somewhere else. We're telling you that can happen all day long. We're not arguing the point. Because you can have 10 different estimates and you can find the cheapest. You'll probably find exactly what you're looking for as far as price goes. But you told me earlier you're the type of people who want to do it right the first time and not touch it at all, right? And the situation you told me you were sharing, if we don't correct the issue, you're just putting another problem in with probably a worse problem than what you already have. And you don't want to downgrade the current windows you have, do you? You want to make sure it's an upgrade. So what I wanted to do, I want to go over that real quick. Because again, if you're getting good at the product, you know, it can sing and dance. What I'm going to do on Wednesday's meeting, I'm going to record myself doing an Impervia demo onto it so you can see an inside and outside demo of it. Because if you played around with the screens, if you're one of those people that took the screen out and put the screen back in, it means you don't understand the window. The screens now, if you take a look at the new ones, you can pop them in and out. You got to do it your first time, and you got to do it on yourself to basically loosen it up. After you take that in 2 times, it comes in and out nice and easy. So if you think about basically what you're not doing compared to what you are doing, you should never make an excuse for anything. It's a damn good window, right? Consumer Reports says it's the #1 composite window in the United States. Consumer Reports says it's the #1 composite window in the United States. You also look on Consumer Reports, it tells you all the testing and verifications that have to happen to call that the #1 window. But even though it's the #1 window, if you got an idiot in installing it wrong, is it a good window? So the window is only as good as the installation. Right? And if you don't pick the right installation, the right house, the right situation, are you putting yourself in a good or bad position? So you got to make sure you're making the main thing the main thing. The rest of it's bullshit. The rest of it's all made up in your mind. You're buying lives on the other thing. But if you're not talking about these things that are unique and why it's important to them, then all you're doing is verbal vomit. And verbal vomit gets us nowhere. Ask questions. Listen. Obtain. Bring it in. Figure out. Look at the condition, the environment. Listen to what's going on. Maybe it's not because of energy efficiency. Maybe it is because of energy efficiency. At least energy efficiency gives you something to talk about. Right? UV rays, basically 16th inch gap around all the 3x5 foot windows, the same as the brick missing out of the house. Basically hot to cold transfer coming in. Can you ever turn your heater and air conditioner up or down enough to make a difference outside? The answer is no, right? So no matter what you do, every time you hear that go on and off, it's costing you money. Even if you got solar, there's probably wear and tear on your furnace and air conditioner, so we can save you another basically 5 to 20 grand on not having to replace your condenser, your air conditioner, your heating unit inside of here. Isn't it worth it to you? What color is your filter when you pull out your filter? Is it bright white or is it like a gray color? So again, all that dust and allergens sitting inside your house, is that what you want to do? Do you have allergies? Does anyone in your house have allergies? Look at your kid's bedroom here. Look at the spiders wrapping in the corner, right? That's how we know. That's where basically they build their nest because that's where they're trying to block and catch the food from coming inside the window. I mean, so as gross as those spiders are, and as much as they say you might swallow basically 10 to 12 of those things a year, that thing sitting there is actually protecting you from letting other bugs inside the house because your windows aren't doing what they need to be doing. It's a slice of life. If I can put something in your mind to make you see bigger than what you're currently seeing, it's it. Not to mention, if you got a gap here, geez, look at all this moisture down there. Look at what's happened to the drywall here. How long do you think it's taken before you could actually see the signs of that happening? Look at basically the tape coming through your drywall right through here, right? That doesn't happen. That's been happening for a long period of time through here. Realize that this gets down here, one's coating, so it only takes 3% to allow that insulation to collapse by a third. And I need to be doing this shit right on their window. If it's collapsing by a third, and now I'm getting the organic materials such as basically the studs, the paper on the insulation, all those things, now you've got warm, moist, dark areas, which creates all kinds of dirty M words that we don't want to be talking about, right?
Snakes.
I'm not qualified to talk about what can happen on that. Not to mention, that could cost you $800 to $2,500 to replace just what's below here, not counting the window itself. Another price impression, right? So again, get your ass in gear. Think about what their why is, not your why, right? Price impression, get your commitments, right? Make sure you put them in a visualization. Have before and after pictures to show them. Get them excited about why you're there. Why did the basically window gods bring you into their life to share with them the reason why you are the best decision? Why are you not replaceable with a play button on a computer? Why are you not replaceable with a play button on a computer? Why can't I present myself and put myself on a laptop, put myself on a website, and push play and have people watch the presentation, and then I can just come out, measure the windows, or send the measure tech out with an order form and sign them up? Why are you that good? Why are you that good that you're not replaceable? Right? Think about that. Because don't think technology won't eventually take us there. So why are you you? And why are you relevant in today's market, today's situation? Why are you getting more money for your products and services than what anyone else is? Because you're the best, right? So you got to think that. If I'm not putting myself in a slice of life, asking for help when I need help, making a quick phone call to get reset after a bullshit appointment, making sure I'm asking for a ride along and not sitting here expecting Einstein's definition of insanity to happen, right? So in ending, change your story, change your life. Divorce the story of limitation and marry the story of truth. And everything changes. So what we're trying to do, if we're trying to get everything to change, you have to divorce the story of limitation. You can't think there's something that's limiting you in what your pathway is. If it is, you need to figure out how to remove it out of your life. If it is, that's what you call basically an anchor. There's anchors and engines in our business, right? Focus on the engines, not the anchors. I got that from basically that little workout specialist. I forget what her name is. But she basically...
Jane Fonda.
No, it's not Jane Fonda. It's, it's kind of hot girl. I don't even know what her name is. But Basically, but the anchors and engines talk, I heard that a long time ago. And you talk about anchors and engines, it's true. Think about it. What am I doing now is taking me towards success? That's an engine. If what I'm focusing my attention on is taking me down away from my goals, that's an anchor. So focus on everything I'm doing. Is that an anchor? Is that an engine? It's like saying the C word out loud. That's an anchor. That's not an engine, right? So we got to focus on what we do. Now we've got 36 months, no interest and equal payments, right? You got that 12-month program with soft pull if you want to. You got basic tools and resources we haven't had in a while, right? If you want to learn how to do these and you want to be a master of it, come and see me. I'll help you. But again, it takes effort. You can't see it done once and expect it. You got to practice till you can't get it wrong. There's more than just a cheap saying, but again, an amateur practice get it right, a professional practice can't get it wrong. If you don't like the results are, what are you doing to change it? And sitting on Gilligan's Island out there waiting for somebody to come out on a ship and come and rescue you, not gonna happen. You gotta basically build your own boat to get to rescue and ask for help. Let me guys ask you. Based on a day, even showing basically the cub versus the cougar right through there, basically chasing him around to where he backed in the corner. If you guys need help, can I count on you guys to come to me and ask for help? Can I? Okay. Because again, I can't help you if I don't know you need help. And I already know when you need help, but again, I don't want to feel like I want it more than you. So again, when you come to me and you ask me for help, I'll try to do everything in my power to give you everything I can. Okay? I'll make the changes to the keynote as you asked me to do. I'll make sure that's available to everybody. It'll take me a few minutes. You want to stick around after this. But the next thing about it is, again, today starts with you. And it starts with identifying your anchors, your engines, making sure you know your why, getting in there, asking enough questions for your customers' why, and then figuring out their shrine on why they buy. I promise you, those three things today, if you take nothing else except for your why, and their shrine, you're going to change your results overnight. I promise you. Because at the end of the day, at that point, it doesn't have to do with product. It has to do with what do they have going on now? What do they enjoy? What dissatisfaction or design issues or incapabilities do they have? And then you're coming with a solution based off all the things they told you are their problems, which is called ownership. And when you're helping for things they take ownership, life changes. Life changes at the beginning of accountability. And accountability is when you take ownership for your own problems, right? Can't fix anyone else, you fix yourself. So again, with that said, we're going to end. Any questions or anything we went over today? Hopefully you got something out of today. Because the point is, even if it's a refocus, that's kind of my nice way of tapping you between the nose, making sure basically you understand that you're screwing up. And when we're screwing up, we got to take accountability for what we're screwing up, and we got to change it. Can't have another month like we had last month. There's just no excuse for it. Especially with the programs we have now. If we still screw up, that's all on you. So again, let's make this a monster month. And I'm working on basically a little contest that you're seeing. I'm going to try to do a little thing to make it more fun. And so again, let's focus on what we can do to make a difference this month. Okay? Can I count on you guys?
Yes.
100% every day, right?
Yes.
All right. Who they think going to beat SoCal? Nobody! Have a good day, guys. Appreciate you.
Text you about.
What's that?
Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you, buddy.
He's a CPA. And he wanted to, she kept pushing the year. Can I go 2 years on that?
If we need
2.5%. Yeah.
I have an example. If we need it to get the business, just do it. Okay?
Because she wanted it bad. I thought I had it. I sat there for like 45 minutes while they were
screwing around. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's.
Yeah, let's 57 something.
Let's focus on getting that big boy.
Start out in Duracast, but that was too much.
Yeah. Well, but that's what you do, man. If you start there and you get out, get out and it's tapped out of it, then you don't got to worry about. Yeah. You have to worry about the other stuff.
Yeah. No. Okay. This is, I think, a tap for everybody this month.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
I
get,
feel a lot better than I was down.
yeah, that's exactly right. We'll knock the shit out of it this month.
You have to.